She hadn't eaten in 6 days. Not because there was no food, but because pressing the lever would send pain through her closest companion. In a sterile lab in the early 1960s, surrounded by cold metal and silent observation, a Rhesus macaque made a decision no one expected. She sat motionless, her large amber eyes fixed on the trembling cage beside her, where another macaque flinched at unseen shocks. The food tray remained untouched. Researchers documented the behavior, but no one could explain the quiet refusal that echoed louder than any scream. What makes a creature choose hunger over harm? And what does that say about us? This is the true story of empathy, captivity, and one decision that would haunt the walls of science for decades. Hit like, subscribe, and let's go. She was known as Subject 43, but before the numbers, she had a name no one remembered. Born in a small research colony on the outskirts of Maryland, she spent her early years among other Rhesus macaques, climbing, grooming, dozing in the sun. Her world was simple, routines shaped by light, warmth, and the quiet comfort of others. She was intelligent, quick to learn, often first to solve puzzles left by the keepers. Her expressive eyes followed every movement, alert and curious. Days passed with a kind of rhythm, until the cages changed, and the faces did too. She didn't know it yet, but the familiar comfort of her group would soon be replaced by silence, metal, and something colder than loneliness. Her life, once defined by instinct and play, was about to become a test. The lights were brighter here. Harsher. Subject 43 was moved without warning, no familiar sense, no friendly calls, only the cold slide of the door and the rattle of wheels on tile. The new cage was smaller, isolated. Across from her sat another macaque, older, trembling, with patches of missing fur and eyes that darted, never settling. Then came the noise, a click, a jolt, and the other macaque recoiled in pain. Confused, Subject 43 watched as a metal lever appeared near her tray. When she pressed it, food dropped. But so did the other macaque. It screamed, sharp, raw, human-like. She froze. The room fell silent except for the hum of machines and the sound of her own breath. Something was terribly wrong. What kind of test was this? And why did eating hurt someone else? She didn't press the lever again. Not that day. But the next morning, the tray remained full, and the other macaque trembled worse than before. Cameras watched from every corner. The room smelled of disinfectant and dread. Subject 43 paced, restless. Each movement echoed in the sterile silence. Then, the lever clicked back into place. The choice returned. Hunger or harm. For days, she avoided it, her body growing weaker, limbs thinner. But each refusal brought confusion, even agitation, from the researchers beyond the glass. Notes scribbled. Switches flicked. And once, briefly, the shock cage was empty. Then, it wasn't. The macaque returned, slower now, as if broken. Subject 43 stared at her reflection in the metal wall, but all she saw was the outline of something she didn't understand, something closing in. She had been watching for weeks, quiet, unseen, just beyond the glass. A young assistant, new to the lab, with notebooks full of questions the others stopped asking. Her name wasn't known to Subject 43, but her presence was different. She lingered longer. She didn't look away. One afternoon, as the macaque sat beside her untouched food, the assistant slipped a folded page into her coat. It was a log, dates, behavior notes, refusals to eat. In the margins, is this empathy? That night, she stayed late, recording every tremor, every pause before the lever. She wasn't supposed to care. But something in the macaque's stillness, her choice, her quiet resistance, it stirred something. And for the first time, someone inside the system began to see not a subject, but a soul. A door hadn't opened yet, but someone was reaching for the key. Late one evening, long after the lab had emptied, the assistant returned alone. Her hands trembled as she entered the observation room, keycard swiped without authorization. On her clipboard, a flash drive hid beneath taped notes. Inside it, weeks of footage, subject 43 refusing to eat, choosing suffering over silence. She moved quickly, unlocking the side panel of the enclosure, eyes scanning the dark hall. She didn't know if anyone was watching. She only knew she couldn't watch anymore. With shallow breaths, she injected a mild sedative into a hidden slice of fruit and slid it through the bars. Subject 43 hesitated, then accepted it, weak, but alert. The assistant whispered nothing. She simply waited as the macaque's body slowly eased. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. A camera light blinked red. The door hadn't opened yet. But the line had been crossed. And there was no going back. The lab was silent. The kind of silence that hums in the bones. In the dim light of a supply closet turned hiding place, the assistant sat curled against the wall, listening for alarms that hadn't yet sounded. Her eyes burned from sleepless hours, her mind replaying every second, the injection, the blink of the camera, the macaque's slow breathing. Had it been too late? Would anyone notice by morning? In the next room, subject 43 lay still beneath a thin blanket, eyes half closed, chest rising faintly. No cries, no movement. Just waiting. The assistant checked her watch again, then pressed her ear to the wall, as if willing the silence to answer her. Outside, the wind moved against the windows. Inside, two hearts waited in parallel, one human, one not, each hoping the other would make it through the night. At dawn, she stirred. A slow twitch of fingers. Then a breath, deeper, steadier. Subject 43 blinked, eyes unfocused, then fixed on the face behind the glass. The assistant exhaled like she hadn't breathed in days. The macaque sat up slowly, unsteady but alive. The food tray was still there. This time, she reached for it. No lever. No shock. Just quiet, cautious hunger. In the hallway, voices rose, panic, confusion, the beginning of discovery. The camera footage had been copied. Emails sent. It was no longer a secret. The assistant stood frozen, heart pounding, but tears filled her eyes. Not because they were safe. But because, for the first time, something changed. The silence had cracked. The system saw what it tried to ignore. And subject 43, she was still here. Still choosing. Still resisting. Years later, she still remembered the eyes. Not the machines, not the cold protocols, but the eyes of a creature who chose hunger over harm. Subject 43 was eventually moved to a sanctuary. She lived quietly, never far from others, always watching. The assistant never returned to the lab. Instead, she devoted her life to animal ethics, her first paper titled The Refusal. It was read, then quoted, then remembered. One silent act, once hidden behind glass, became a question science could no longer ignore. What does empathy look like without words? And why did it come not from us, but from her? In the end, it wasn't the shock, the hunger, or the data that changed everything. It was the choice. A small one. But impossible to forget. There are more stories like this. We just have to be willing to see them. This story isn't just about a macaque or a lab. It's about the choices we make, the silent battles fought in places we'll never see. It's about seeing the world with eyes wide open and asking the questions we might not want to hear. Subject 43 taught us something that words can't capture. Sometimes, the smallest acts of resistance leave the biggest marks. We all have a choice. Maybe not every day, but sometimes, when it matters most. Thank you for watching this journey. It's a reminder that change doesn't always come in loud moments, it's in the quiet ones, too. Like, share, and let us know your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that challenge how we see the world. Until next time.